This is Cauldron Script, Season 1, Q&A, Episode 1, for January 22nd, 2017.
Welcome. Welcome to my dungeon.
Okay, so if you're joining us on the Android or Apple app, go to the live section and you can join in the chat. Also on Spreaker.com. If you are with me live in the chat room, if you would, go ahead and send a message. Let me know that you're there. If you have any questions, feel free to ask at any point. That's basically what today is going to be a Q&A. I wish it showed who all was in the chat room. That would be a better feature. Maybe next time I will switch platforms from Spreaker. Anyway, welcome to Cauldron Script. I'm your host, Master Cauldron Fire. If you are new to the show, this is a place to dispel myths, get rid of stereotypes, and answer your questions about BDSM. You can call in at 865-268-4005 to leave your questions or visit the crypt at cauldronscrypt.com. On this episode, like I said, we're going to answer your questions. I'm going to touch on rights and privileges. This is going to be an independent episode that I'm going to record this evening, just on the rights and privileges, but I do want to touch on it, kind of give you a preview. We're going to define each of them and discuss who sets them, what happens if a dominant tries to use the submissive's rights as a bargaining tool. And to top it off, I'll just give a few examples of how a dominant can use privileges as an effective motivation. So, not seeing any questions coming in yet. So, I will hit the rules to love by, as I always do. Rule number 1, you know it, safe, sane, consensual, and informed. Rule number 2, it's that Kinky code. Shout out to Kinky. It's a wonderful little app. If you haven't tried it yet, it is available on all platforms. Check it out. They have a great ambassador program if you're a big part of your local BDSM community or on a national or international level as well. If you do a lot of touring, you can become a member of their ambassador program, and it is designed to spread intelligent, honest information. And just as I try to do here, dispel myths and get rid of stereotypes and prevent abuse from taking place. But that Kinky code stands for knowledge, no intolerance, kindness, and integrity. 4 very important things, not just in the kinky world, but in life in general. And then third, as always, that wonderful quote by Mr. Paul Young: submission is not about authority. It's not about obedience. It is all about relationships of love and respect. And that's really what the kinky ambassadors are trying to promote as well. So, rights and privileges and the big difference between them. To start off with anything, words are powerful, so we must truly understand the meaning of the words. The definition of rights. The first definition is that which is morally correct, just, or honorable. A moral or legal entitlement to have or obtain something or to act in a certain way. So your legal entitlement or your moral entitlement to have something. Privileges, that's a whole nother story. And a lot of this is pretty much common sense, but people often get them confused. So, with a privilege, it is a special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or a group of people. So, with that said, who is going to set the rights in a relationship and who sets the privileges? Remember, with BDSM, safe, sane, consensual, and informed. Those last two will dictate who sets rights and privileges, and that's going to be to both people. It doesn't say that one person, the dominant or the submissive or the top or the bottom, is the one that is consenting and informed. That is for both. So, all parties involved, it should be an ongoing discussion as part of the never-ending negotiation and check-in process. And check-ins can be in the middle of a scene, which should take place and should take place pretty frequently. If you're flogging someone and you want to know where they're at, if you're a good top, you're going to ask them. Either through the red light system or a 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 scale to see, you maybe think you're doing an awesome job. And then when it's over, then you decide to have a check-in. And how was it? Well, the whole way through, out of 10, I was about a 2 or 3. You were really taking it easy on me, and I really didn't get much out of it. I appreciate your time, but and then they're just not going to play with you again. So it's very important to constantly be checking in, or it could be just the other way. They could have hit subspace and not really able to just say, hey, you're not quite to the point that I would consider abuse, but it is a little bit much right now. Back off, maybe do some sensation play, do some rubbing or kissing or maybe a little nibble here or there. Whatever the case may be, pull out the rabbit fur and rub my back or my bottom, whichever location you happen to be working on at the time. So those check-ins and that communication is absolutely the difference between someone being looked at by others as a good top or a bad top, and can be the determining factor to whether you get invited back to a party or not. So very, very, very important having that communication and setting those terms as rights and privileges. All right, so who has them? Most people think that because the dominant is the dominant or the top is the top, that they carry all the rights, all the privileges for the submissive. So they hold them and they grant them. Well, rights are not something that is granted. They are there, they exist, and they are not to be touched. Privileges, on the other hand, yes, over my submissives, I do hold their privileges. Can I use them in ways that I see fit? Yes, as long as it's been agreed upon. There are some things and some ways that you may or may not want to do that. But I'll get into that a little bit more later. However, the subs and the bottoms also hold privileges for the tops and the dominants, and that's something that a lot of people don't think about. The newbies, which really is my target audience for this. And if you are new to the show, and this is my first time live, so this is a new experience for me. But if you're new to the show and you do have some experience, make sure you're in that chat room. Go ahead and throw some things up, bring up some points. I do not claim to be perfect by any means. I certainly don't have all the information. And I don't think that any one person does. It's a never-ending journey. And that's one of the things that I love about it the most, is that it's fluid. It's constant learning. So anyway, back to these rights and privileges. Yes, Sarah in the chat. Transparency, absolutely. How you doing, little one? Can't wait for you to get back up this way. So, rights and privileges in a DS relationship. The sub, that's always the one that's thought of first, especially when it comes to privileges, because that word is often interchangeable with rewards. But DOMs also may be granted privileges from the sub. Remember, it is a power exchange. The only reason the Dom has power is because it has been granted to them by the submissive or by the bottom. I've had some subs and bottoms that have offered me one-time privileges on things that were soft and hard limits for special occasions. And they offered it. They changed, they said, normally this is a hard limit, but it's a special occasion. And I trust you. We've been together long enough, or we've been playing long enough that I trust you and that I will do this for you once. So that was certainly a privilege for me because they in no way had to. I never asked. And that is often a good way that you can tell that a relationship may be leading to abuse. If you have something that is a hard limit, which means it is absolute, it is off the table, but yet the other person is bringing it up. And once they start to bring it up, it seems like it never ends. They'll constantly kind of hammer away on it and try to chip away at it. And in my opinion, that is the start of abuse fairly often. So, all right. Again, it was something that was well thought out by them and never spur of the moment. A few examples, and this is going to sound like it's not that big of a deal, but trust me, in these situations, it really was a big deal. Going to a restaurant that they absolutely hated, seeing a movie that was part of a franchise that they hated, cutting their hair a certain way, and of course, sexual activities, which is what people probably expected me to list right off the bat, was different sexual acts. But no, that's not always the case. In fact, most of the time, in my experience, that has not been the case. Yes, absolutely. Safety is always, always, always a right. Such a good girl. Let's see. So, again, some of these things don't seem like that big of a deal, but to the subs involved or the bottoms involved, each of these things were huge and had actually been negotiated as either soft or hard limits. And they had absolutely no obligation whatsoever to offer these services to me. So it was something very special. But they did this because I had earned their trust and respect and proven I was a dominant worthy of their submission. So they gave a little extra, and of course, this recharged me. And that's that power exchange. I talked about it a lot in the earlier, like the first 3 or 4 episodes. How the submissive giving that power and continuing to give that, and that relationship growing deeper, so more trust comes about, and through check-ins and renegotiations, things start changing and becoming a lot closer as that trust develops. So that will